Good evening, listeners. This is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer, coming to you through whatever signal you can still reach. If you're hearing this, it means you are holding on to a thread in a world that is suddenly unthreaded. Across the eastern seaboard tonight, electricity is disappearing in waves. Entire regions are dark. Traffic lights are gone. Elevators are frozen mid-rise. Hospitals are rationing generator power, prioritizing the critical, leaving the rest to flicker in shadow. This is not a drill. This is happening as we speak. If your lights have dimmed, if the hum of the city has gone quiet, know that you are witnessing a fracture in the systems we have always taken for granted.
And Alex, the human response is immediate and visceral. We've been flooded with messages. A listener in Philadelphia said the blackout hit their neighborhood like a switch being flipped. One street glowing, the next swallowed in darkness. They described neighbors stumbling in the dark, trying to find flashlights, candles, anything. Another message from Baltimore reports elevators stopped mid-floor, and residents were forced down stairwells lit only by cell phone glow. People are frightened, but there's something else in these messages. Awe at how completely ordinary life can unravel in an instant.
From a technical perspective, this isn't random failure. Modern grids are sectionalized, meaning that if supply drops, certain areas can be cut off while industrial or critical zones remain powered. That explains why hospitals, data centers, and industrial zones are still lit while residential neighborhoods rotate into darkness. The grid is not broken. It's being managed, and tonight, we are witnessing that management in real time. For survival, keep your refrigerators closed, preserve battery power, and move cautiously in darkened areas.
And it's not just the electricity. Reports are coming in that satellites are flickering, GPS is going dark, and commercial flights are experiencing anomalies. Drivers are being routed incorrectly. Navigation apps are sending people into neighborhoods that don't match their maps. The world that once seemed instantaneous and predictable, our networks, our air traffic, our deliveries, is suddenly blind. One listener from Newark said she was driving to the hospital for a relative, only to find her GPS leading her in circles, her phone's signal cutting in and out. She said, I realized we're flying blind, but on the ground.
This is a critical point. Our modern infrastructure is built on layers of synchronization. Satellites, GPS, air traffic control, and even your rideshare apps all rely on constant, precise timing. Once those signals falter, the systems fail silently, cascading into confusion on the ground. If you're navigating tonight, rely on landmarks, paper maps if you have them, and coordinate with trusted neighbors. Assume technology may mislead rather than guide.
And the human element, the panic, the improvisation is unfolding fast. Cell towers are dead, texts are bouncing, and social media has frozen mid-scroll. One listener in Washington, D.C. wrote that her neighborhood group chat was full of incomplete messages, unanswered calls, and mounting uncertainty. People were standing outside, calling friends and family who couldn't pick up, and feeling the terrifying weight of disconnection. It's one thing for lights to go out, Alex, but when you can no longer communicate, the world feels physically smaller, as if your neighborhood has become an island.
From a survival standpoint, isolation is one of the most dangerous variables in an event like this. Keep radios charged, maintain a list of neighbors and their locations, and establish in-person communication plans. Remember that the systems you relied on, phone, internet, GPS, are now unreliable. Adaptation requires attention, observation, and redundancy.
Listeners are finding ways. Candlelight vigils for guidance, meeting spots in apartment lobbies, flashlights passed hand to hand, generators shared among buildings. People are improvising trust networks in real time. Another listener in Boston wrote that for the first time in years, neighbors are knocking on doors to offer help, share water, or guide each other through dark streets. It's slow, it's uneven, but it's human resilience asserting itself in the absence of the systems we thought eternal.
Tonight, Lost Signal Radio will stay on air as long as we can maintain the signal. For those listening, remember, stay calm, conserve resources, Help those around you, and assume that systems may fail further. Electricity may return, satellites may resynchronize, communications may come back, but do not wait for the world to fix itself. Adapt locally. Observe constantly. Trust cautiously. Humanity is the only infrastructure that cannot fail completely.
We'll continue to share updates, stories, survival tips, and observations as they come in. If you are listening, you are not alone. Keep your lights close, your mind alert, and your neighbors within reach. Lost Signal Radio is your line to the world that still exists, and together we will navigate this darkness.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane. Stay with us. Keep listening. Adapt, and above all, survive. Good evening, listeners. This is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer, speaking to you from somewhere still holding a signal, wherever that may be. Across the country tonight, we are watching the skies, the grids, and the streets unravel in ways few of us were prepared to witness. Reports are flooding in that air traffic control is struggling to maintain order. Planes are circling endlessly above major hubs. Airports are shutting down without notice. Travelers are stranded mid-flight, trapped in metal tubes, unable to land, unable to communicate with family. Radar systems are experiencing outages, likely connected to the ongoing solar flare activity that has thrown electronics into disarray. If you are in an airport or planning travel, assume your plans are null. Flight schedules no longer matter. Airports may close with no announcement, and the sky above is no longer a trusted guide.
And Alex, the human response to this is immediate, chaotic, and frightening. We've received messages from pilots stuck in holding patterns over New York, Atlanta, and Miami. One described circling for over 3 hours, running low on fuel, relying on emergency protocols that may themselves be compromised. Travelers on the ground describe mass confusion, terminals half-lit, gates locked, announcements interrupted by static. One listener in Chicago said families huddled together on benches, cell phones useless, wondering whether they would see each other again that night. Airports, once symbols of control and order, have become waiting rooms for uncertainty and fear.
From a technical perspective, commercial aviation relies entirely on synchronized navigation systems. GPS signals disrupted by solar activity, radar outages, and loss of satellite communication create a perfect storm of chaos. Planes are forced into emergency holding patterns, pilots rely on manual navigation, and air traffic control struggles to coordinate flights that are literally invisible on their screens. If you are airborne tonight, or planning flights in the near term, the safest course is to land wherever possible using visual landmarks, maintain fuel reserves, and communicate via radio frequency if any channel remains functional.
Meanwhile, the skies themselves are offering a spectacle that is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Across multiple states, reports are coming in that the aurora borealis is visible as far south as Texas, Louisiana, even parts of Florida. Green and red lights are flaring violently across the horizon, normally a phenomenon reserved for the polar regions. One listener in Houston described watching the sky shimmer like fire and water at once, feeling fear and wonder collide. Another in Dallas said children ran outside in their pajamas to witness a sky that seemed alive, yet also threatening, like the world itself had turned its circuits inside out.
It's a rare and scientifically explainable event. The solar storm responsible for the communication and power disruptions is so strong that charged particles are entering the atmosphere far beyond the poles. Normally, this is contained near the Arctic or Antarctic circles. Tonight, it is painting the skies in colors we are not used to, but its beauty belies its danger. Those particles are also inducing currents in power lines, affecting grids, causing voltage fluctuations, and interfering with electronics. Do not be fooled by the spectacle. The sky may be beautiful, but the underlying effect is hazardous.
And as if the sky and airwaves weren't enough, our emergency response infrastructure is struggling, or failing entirely. Reports from fire, police, and medical services indicate units are receiving conflicting directives. Some are refusing to cross city lines. Hospitals report that ambulances cannot be dispatched due to traffic control failures, blocked communications, and fuel rationing. Citizens are being left to fend for themselves. One listener in Philadelphia described a house fire where neighbors had to form a bucket brigade because no fire unit could arrive for over an hour. Another in Atlanta recounted a car accident where first responders refused to cross jurisdictions, leaving victims to wait for assistance that may never arrive.
From a survival standpoint, tonight is about improvisation and local coordination. Identify neighbors, establish mutual aid protocols, and understand that centralized emergency services may not reach you. Stock basic medical supplies if possible, know multiple evacuation routes, and prioritize safety over speed when assistance is delayed. Communication will be fractured. Radios, handwritten notes, and local signals are now more reliable than the usual dispatch channels.
Listeners are telling us they are already improvising in real time. One community in Baltimore set up a neighborhood watch and volunteer first response network, using runners and hand signals where phones fail. In Orlando, families are sharing fuel to power generators for the elderly and infirm. People are creating micro-networks of trust and survival, because tonight, trust in the larger systems of government, utilities, and transportation has been suspended indefinitely.
We are also receiving first-hand updates on how the combination of auroras, grid instability, and GPS failure is affecting everyday life. Grocery stores report partial outages of registers. Traffic lights have gone dark, turning streets into chaotic intersections. Hospitals rely on backup generators, running only critical equipment. Elevators and escalators are stalled, leaving residents to navigate stairwells in darkness. The combined effect is a society operating at the edge of improvisation, where every movement must be calculated, every resource rationed, and every decision carries higher risk than ever before.
It is the human element that is both fragile and resilient. Neighbors guiding each other through dark streets, drivers communicating by hand signals where GPS fails, communities pooling resources to keep the vulnerable safe. This is what persists when technology falters. One listener from New Jersey said, "For the first time, I felt that human connection mattered more than my Wi-Fi, my car, my money." And in that sense, amid chaos, the capacity for coordination, empathy, and improvisation becomes the single most reliable survival tool.
Tonight, Lost Signal Radio will remain on air as long as possible. For those of you listening, your priority is simple. Conserve power, avoid unnecessary travel, coordinate locally, and maintain awareness of your surroundings. Do not rely on GPS, cell service, or centralized emergency systems. They are failing. Rely on your eyes, your ears, your instincts, and the people immediately around you.
And remember, even as the aurora paints the sky in colors that seem otherworldly, it is not just a spectacle. It is a warning, a reminder that forces far beyond our control are affecting the very systems we take for granted. Document what you see, communicate where you can, and protect your community. Human resilience is the only infrastructure that remains reliable tonight.
Lost Signal Radio will continue bringing updates, listener reports, and survival guidance for as long as the signal holds. The sky may flicker, planes may circle endlessly, emergency services may be paralyzed, but you are not alone if you are listening.
Stay calm, stay vigilant, stay connected to your neighbors, use your judgment, and above all, survive.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. The world is chaotic, the skies are alive, the grids are failing, but together, in observation and action, we can endure. Listeners, this is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer. We've been tracking the chaos across the eastern seaboard, the blackouts, the satellite disruptions, the GPS failures, and now we are entering a new phase of this crisis. Air traffic control is struggling to maintain order. Planes are circling endlessly over major hubs. Airports are shutting down without warning. Travelers are stranded mid-flight, sometimes miles above their intended destinations. Radar systems are flickering, failing intermittently, likely a direct effect of the ongoing solar flare. If you are airborne tonight, or if you have loved ones traveling, this is the reality. Your navigation may be compromised, communication may fail, and landing safely is now a matter of improvisation, experience, and luck.
Alex, the messages are coming in thick and fast, and the human impact is immediate. One listener from Atlanta wrote in saying he watched a flight board blink and stall mid-update as planes circled overhead. People in terminals have no guidance, no staff available, no clarity about departures or arrivals. Another in New York described the airport as a ghost town in some terminals, while others were jam-packed with stranded travelers, families sleeping on benches, trying to ration their phone batteries, and praying someone would broadcast instructions. The air itself has become a zone of tension, invisible, chaotic, and utterly unpredictable.
And then there is the sky itself. For the first time in decades, auroras are visible far south, as far as Texas, Louisiana, and even Florida. People are reporting violent green and red lights dancing across the horizon, normally reserved for the poles. One listener in Houston described stepping outside and seeing the sky ripple as if the atmosphere itself were alive. Beautiful, terrifying, and an unmistakable sign of the solar storm impacting the planet's magnetic field. The charged particles from the flare are responsible for the communication blackouts, power fluctuations, and satellite failures we are observing. The aurora is the visual signature of the chaos, breathtaking, but a warning all the same.
Listeners describe awe and fear mingling in ways that are almost physical. Families in Dallas pulled their children out of bed to watch the sky light up. Neighbors in New Orleans stood on rooftops, pointing, whispering, afraid to turn away. One amateur astronomer in Austin said it was the most intense aurora he had ever seen, a sky that seemed angry and alive. And yet, while people marvel at the beauty, the ground reality is terrifying. Hospitals running on generator power, traffic lights dead, emergency services in disarray. The sky is beautiful, Alex, but it is also a reminder that the world below is no longer functioning as it should.
Which brings us to emergency response. Fire, police, and medical units are reporting conflicting directives. Some units are refusing to cross city or county lines due to safety protocols, fuel rationing, or breakdowns in communication. Hospitals report ambulances unable to reach patients. Citizens are, in many cases, forced to fend for themselves. One listener in Philadelphia described a house fire where neighbors formed a bucket brigade because no fire unit could arrive for over an hour. Another in Atlanta recounted a traffic accident where victims had to wait for help that might never come, because jurisdictional conflicts and broken communication left first responders frozen.
And in the midst of this breakdown, a lifeline is emerging. Old school, low-tech, and surprisingly reliable. Amateur radios. Ham operators across the eastern seaboard are improvising signal chains to reach relatives, local authorities, and neighbors. One listener in Charlotte described contacting a family member 50 miles away through a network of 3 amateur radio operators. Messages that would have taken minutes over phones now travel in sequences of Morse code or voice through repeaters. Communities are rapidly establishing ad hoc networks, relaying urgent updates, medical requests, and resource locations. In some ways, the old technology is the only system still functioning when modern infrastructure has failed completely.
Tonight, if you are listening, your survival may literally depend on signal chains like this. Amateur radio operators are becoming the new backbone of communication. Keep a battery-powered or hand-crank radio, know local frequencies, and establish contact with trusted neighbors. Even a simple relay chain can save lives. Coordinating supplies, medical attention, or even just reassurance. Technology may be failing, but human ingenuity persists.
And listeners, the improvisation doesn't stop there. Neighborhoods are organizing watch teams, sharing generators, and using radios to coordinate safe movement through darkened streets. Drivers are relying on visual cues rather than GPS. Families are establishing meeting points in case phone lines fail entirely. One listener in Baltimore said they have started checkpoint stations with signal flares or handheld radios, relaying instructions for families traveling to hospital or grocery locations. The human network is stepping in where the technological one has collapsed.
The combination of air traffic chaos, aurora-induced geomagnetic activity, and emergency disarray creates a cascading effect. Delayed or stranded flights, misrouted travelers, blocked roadways, failed hospitals, and powerless communications. Every decision becomes higher stakes. Every choice carries risk. The only reliable constants tonight are observation, local coordination, and improvisation.
Listeners are also reporting strange, eerie phenomena as part of this chaos. With GPS and satellites disrupted, street signs and landmarks have regained literal importance. One driver in New Jersey described navigating to a hospital using the outline of rivers and bridges, paper maps, and flashlights because every digital guide had failed. People are recalibrating their sense of space and distance, relying on the physical world in ways that have been rare for decades.
Practical advice for tonight, lost signal radio listeners. Conserve power for essential devices. Keep radios operational, preferably hand crank or battery powered. Establish neighborly networks for resource sharing and emergency response. Rely on physical maps and local landmarks for navigation. Assume GPS is unreliable. Document and relay critical updates through amateur radio chains. Prepare for delayed or absent professional emergency services. Anticipate improvisation.
And emotionally, tonight is draining. Fear, awe, frustration, and solidarity are all blending together. Families are witnessing skies they have never seen, streets without guidance, flights without oversight, and neighbors who must become the first responders. Listeners, this is heavy, but it's also human resilience in motion. Communities are improvising, observing, coordinating, and surviving. That human capacity, trust, ingenuity, coordination is more powerful than any satellite, power line, or radar screen.
We will remain on air as long as we can. Keep listening. Relay information where you can. Share resources. Coordinate via radios or any remaining signals. And remember, survival tonight is local, tangible, and human. The auroras may dazzle the eyes, the skies may confuse the instruments, and the infrastructure may falter. But humanity persists when we communicate, cooperate, and observe.
Lost Signal Radio will continue to bring updates, share reports, and guide those who can hear us. The chaos is vast, the systems are broken, but your network, your neighbors, your ingenuity, these are still intact. Keep them close. Keep communicating.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. We are witnessing a world in flux, air traffic circling, skies alive with auroras, emergency services paralyzed. But for anyone listening, the signal remains, and with it, hope, coordination, and survival. Listeners, this is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer. As the night stretches across the eastern seaboard, the chaos isn't just in the skies or on the airwaves. It's on the ground, in every street, in every home. Reports are coming in that supermarkets, once stocked with food and essentials, are empty in hours. Shelves that were full yesterday are barren today. Panic buying has accelerated as citizens realize that refrigeration may fail soon, that supply chains are breaking down, and that what was taken for granted, daily meals, safe water, even basic hygiene, is no longer guaranteed. One listener from Philadelphia described standing in line at a grocery store at 9 a.m., watching the shelves for milk, bread, and eggs disappear within 30 minutes, replaced by a silence more terrifying than any shout or alarm. People are realizing that modern convenience is fragile, and they are learning the hard way that preparation must now outpace expectation.
And Alex, the panic is not confined to groceries. gas stations are going offline. Pumps that powered cars, generators, and emergency equipment have failed. Streets in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Washington, D.C. are lined with vehicles idling endlessly, drivers waiting for fuel that isn't coming. One listener from Dallas described seeing ambulances parked outside fuel stations, waiting silently while life-saving vehicles sat powerless. Home generators hum uselessly as fuel supplies dry up. It's a stark reminder that mobility, once a guarantee, is now a precious, rationed commodity. The streets themselves have become a measure of desperation.
From a technical perspective, these failures are cascading. Distribution hubs for fuel rely on electricity, communication, and logistics systems, all of which are compromised tonight. Refrigeration for food depends on power. Delivery schedules depend on GPS and functioning fleets. Once one node fails, the rest follow rapidly. The lesson is clear. Conservation, planning, and local coordination are the only strategies left. Prioritize essentials, avoid unnecessary travel, and prepare for further delays.
Meanwhile, neighborhoods are responding in real time, improvising local security and self-isolation protocols. Communities are locking down streets, volunteers are manning makeshift checkpoints, and strangers are treated with suspicion. In Baltimore, a listener described a neighborhood where every car entering was asked to state purpose and destination. In Boston, residents established rotating patrols, signaling through radios and lanterns. Streets, once public spaces, have become micro-frontlines where caution and awareness dictate survival. Trust is now conditional, and coordination with neighbors has replaced reliance on official guidance.
Tonight, this self-isolation isn't paranoia. It is strategy. Without functioning emergency services, power grids, or communications, communities must enforce their own safety. Establish clear protocols, identify local resources, communicate via radios or hand signals, and observe neighbors for mutual reliability. Streets may seem hostile, but they are also spaces where collective survival emerges when systems fail.
Listeners are sending in stories of creativity and courage amid the fear. One family in New Jersey used a community generator to provide basic lighting to an entire block, allowing neighbors to prepare meals and share resources. In Atlanta, volunteers are organizing rotation schedules for water distribution and monitoring food deliveries to vulnerable residents. Even amidst panic, human ingenuity persists. The streets may be tense, the grocery stores empty, the gas stations silent, but people are finding ways to support one another, to improvise systems of survival in the absence of traditional infrastructure.
And we are seeing a shift in daily priorities. Ordinary routines, commuting, shopping, school, have been replaced with survival calculations. How long will this generator last? How many meals can we secure? How far can I safely travel for essentials? Each movement carries risk. Each decision has consequence. We are no longer living in convenience, but in contingency.
For survival tonight, the guidance is simple but urgent. Stock and ration water and food carefully. Share resources with trusted neighbors. Use radios or local signal chains to coordinate movement, supplies, and emergency needs. Avoid traveling long distances unless essential. Maintain vigilance at neighborhood checkpoints. Observation and improvisation are your lifelines when traditional systems no longer operate.
And the emotional toll is real. Listeners describe fear, frustration, and fatigue. The silence of inactive streets, the emptiness of once bustling supermarkets, the stillness of pumps and generators. It weighs heavily. But alongside fear, there is community, cooperation, and determination. People are adapting. They are inventing solutions on the fly. They are learning, observing, and surviving.
The human element is, as always, the most resilient. While grids fail, gas stations remain silent, and streets are policed by necessity rather than law, the networks of trust, communication, and observation among neighbors persist. Amateur radio chains, shared resources, and improvised neighborhood protocols are allowing citizens to reclaim agency in a world that has abruptly suspended the conveniences of modern life.
Tonight, Lost signal radio will continue to broadcast as long as we can. For anyone listening, conserve resources, coordinate locally, communicate through radios or hand signals, and prioritize observation and trust. Survival depends not on the systems that are failing, but on human ingenuity, cooperation, and vigilance.
And remember, listeners, this is not just about enduring the night, it's about adapting to a new reality. Streets may be empty, supermarkets barren, gas stations silent, and emergency services paralyzed. But communities, ingenuity, and improvisation remain. Stay alert, stay connected, and above all, survive.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. Keep listening, keep observing, keep communicating, and know this: while infrastructure may fail, humanity persists, and the signal endures as long as you are paying attention. Listeners, this is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer. As the night stretches on, a new layer of chaos is emerging, one that's subtle but no less dangerous than darkened cities, stranded planes, or empty streets. Emergency broadcasts themselves are fractured. Some alerts urge you to stay indoors, while others instruct evacuation. Sirens overlap with automated notifications. Text alerts ping repeatedly on devices that still function, and official social media channels, when they work, contradict one another. 1 minute, a broadcast warns of possible structural hazards in your area. The next, a message from another authority suggests leaving the neighborhood immediately. For citizens listening tonight, the result is confusion, frustration, and paralyzing indecision. People are caught in loops of uncertainty, unsure which instructions to follow, uncertain which risks are real and which are bureaucratic misfires.
Alex, the messages we're receiving from listeners illustrate the human cost vividly. A mother in Baltimore said she couldn't decide whether to evacuate her building after hearing 2 contradictory alerts over her phone. She kept her children in the living room, flashlight in hand, listening for any external cues, traffic outside, voices, the hum of power. Another in Boston wrote that emergency alerts were looping on a municipal website, displaying the same instructions repeatedly, but swapping shelter in place with evacuate immediately every few minutes. People describe pacing, rechecking their devices, and feeling helpless, as if the world's guidance systems had suddenly dissolved.
And the mechanics behind these contradictions are important to understand. Our emergency infrastructure is layered, siloed, and increasingly automated. Local authorities send alerts on municipal networks. State agencies push overlapping messages. National systems broadcast simultaneously. When communication networks are stressed, when satellites and internet services are disrupted, these layers no longer synchronize. Messages arrive late, duplicated, or in conflict. The result is a cacophony of signals where following any single instruction is a gamble. Tonight, you are your own primary system for evaluation.
Listeners are adapting. Communities are forming their own verification networks. Neighbors checking conditions, observing streets and skies, and using amateur radios to compare notes. One listener in Philadelphia described standing on her balcony with 2 neighbors, holding radios to receive any official updates they could intercept. We cross-checked everything we could, she wrote. If one alert seemed off, we ignored it and relied on what we could see with our own eyes. In the absence of unified guidance, local observation becomes critical.
Exactly. And in practical terms, when alerts conflict, survival depends on situational awareness. Evaluate immediate risks, structural hazards, active fire or flooding, traffic conditions, and neighborhood activity. Prioritize observable danger over contradictory digital instructions. Establish local consensus with trusted neighbors. Use radios or signal chains to confirm movements before acting. And always have a fallback plan for both sheltering in place and evacuation, because at this point, either scenario may be necessary.
Listeners report feeling disoriented, exhausted, and anxious. The human mind is built to respond to consistent signals, to trust authority, to follow guidance. When alerts contradict, that trust collapses. One listener in New York said, "I've never felt more alone even though people were all around me. I kept checking my phone for the right instructions, and every ping made me panic more." Another described neighbors arguing about whether to leave their block or stay, each side citing different alerts. It's a social stress as much as a logistical one. Fractured authority destabilizing community cohesion.
Tonight, Lost Signal Radio listeners, the takeaway is clear. Do not rely exclusively on official alerts. Combine what you can observe with what you can verify locally. Use amateur radios and neighbors as your check and balance. Plan for both scenarios: sheltering in place and evacuation. Identify multiple routes, secure essentials, and communicate intentions with trusted people. Decisions must be deliberate, not reactionary. Chaos does not reward haste.
And as you navigate these conflicting signals, remember the human networks forming around you. In cities and neighborhoods across the eastern seaboard, people are pooling resources, sharing information, and acting as live verifiers of alerts. Some are patrolling streets, confirming which evacuation routes are clear. Others are monitoring fires or downed power lines, relaying observations through radios to families and neighbors. Amid the confusion, human ingenuity is forming a new infrastructure, one built on observation, trust, and improvisation.
Listeners, tonight, your survival depends on three things: observation, coordination, and calm. The alerts may conflict. The official signals may contradict. But if you watch carefully, communicate reliably, and act deliberately, you can navigate this chaos. Amateur radios, local consensus, and physical verification are now more reliable than municipal or digital systems.
And emotionally, this is draining. Fear, confusion, and frustration build as people realize that the trusted systems we've relied on, emergency broadcasts, official guidance, digital alerts, are no longer sufficient. But the human response, the willingness to observe, coordinate, and improvise, is stronger than any siren or push notification. Communities are asserting agency where infrastructure fails.
Lost Signal Radio will remain on air as long as possible to provide guidance, relay observations, and maintain connection. If you are listening tonight, remember, conflicting alerts are not a signal to freeze. They are a signal to evaluate, verify, and act deliberately. Use your own eyes. Use your neighbors. Use radios or any reliable communication you can find. Authority may be fractured, but your ability to survive depends on agency, judgment, and observation.
Stay vigilant. Keep your radios tuned. Coordinate with trusted neighbors. Verify what you can in person. Prepare for multiple outcomes. The chaos of contradictory emergency alerts is a test, but not an insurmountable one. Humanity persists through observation, improvisation, and local connection.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. We will continue broadcasting as long as we can. Conflicting messages, broken signals, and chaos of chaos will not end the signal. Listen, observe, communicate, survive. The night is uncertain, but your agency remains. Listeners, this is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer. Tonight, the chaos has reached a new layer. Military communications are disrupted. Reports are coming in from multiple regions that National Guard units, local militias, and military command centers are receiving conflicting orders. Some units stand down entirely, unsure whether to deploy or hold position. Others move into the field with partial directives, leaving streets, critical infrastructure, and civilian zones in a limbo of enforcement and protection. Civilians are now witnessing a breakdown of structured authority, the kind of discipline that was supposed to provide security in crises. Instead, confusion, unpredictability, and fragmented presence dominate the landscape.
And Alex, the stories we're receiving from listeners are striking. One resident in Northern Virginia reported seeing National Guard convoys stop abruptly mid-route, soldiers debating whether to follow orders or wait for clarification. In Philadelphia, a listener said that checkpoints appeared and disappeared at random, with some staffed and others abandoned, leaving civilians uncertain whether an armed presence meant assistance or danger. In Atlanta, neighbors told us that soldiers passing by would offer no explanation, sometimes turning around mid-patrol. The people on the ground are seeing what is normally invisible. The intricate coordination of command and control is failing, leaving ordinary citizens to read signs and signals for themselves.
From a structural perspective, this is a predictable consequence of the larger disruptions we've been tracking. Satellite outages, GPS failures, and fractured communications networks. Military coordination depends on clear, redundant communication channels. Once those channels falter, orders can arrive late, contradictory, or entirely garbled. The result is fractured enforcement, uneven deployment, and a civilian population forced to interpret the actions, or inaction, of military units in real time. For anyone listening tonight, this is important. Structured authority is no longer a guarantee. Safety must be assessed through observation, local coordination, and situational awareness rather than reliance on uniforms or patrols.
Listeners are improvising to adapt. Neighborhoods are establishing observation posts using binoculars, flashlights, or radios to track the movement of military vehicles. One group in New York City set up a visual guide system, colored lanterns and flags indicating whether a patrol is friendly, neutral, or potentially hostile, relaying that information down the block. A listener from Boston described a civilian radio chain relaying troop movements so residents could plan routes, avoid congestion, and maintain safe access to essentials. Observation and communication are replacing trust and structured authority.
Exactly. And this also highlights the fragile dependency of urban populations on military oversight. When communications are intact, orders, checkpoints, and rapid response provide a semblance of stability. When those orders fail, authority itself becomes an unpredictable force, sometimes protective, sometimes absent, sometimes contradictory. If you are in an area with visible deployments tonight, remember, observe first, move cautiously, and communicate locally. Do not assume that uniforms guarantee safety.
The psychological impact is immediate. Citizens report anxiety, fear, and heightened suspicion. One listener in Washington, D.C. said that soldiers standing in her street exchanged whispers, glanced nervously at each other, and then left without explanation. She wrote, "It was terrifying to see them confused because I realized that if trained professionals are uncertain, then we have no real guideposts." Another described families staying indoors for hours, watching armored vehicles navigate streets, uncertain whether to flee or remain. The breakdown of structured authority forces everyone into self-reliance, observation, and improvisation.
From a survival standpoint, tonight this is crucial. Military presence is no longer a default indicator of protection. Evaluate actions based on behavior, coordination, and patterns, not uniforms. Establish local communication networks, whether through radios, runners, or visual signals, to monitor troop movement and identify safe paths. Avoid unnecessary travel unless essential. Maintain visibility of exits, shelter, and resources. In this environment, self-reliance and community coordination replace formal chains of command as the primary mechanism of survival.
And in terms of emotional resilience, listeners are learning to cope by building trust in tangible observation rather than assumption. Neighborhoods are watching together, sharing information, coordinating movements, and communicating risk. In Baltimore, residents described using hand signals from windows to indicate when it was safe to retrieve supplies. In New Jersey, a block of neighbors created a route rotation to ensure that multiple families could travel to grocery stores or pharmacies without exposing themselves to unpredictable patrols or roadblocks. Communities are improvising civil order in real time.
Tonight, Lost Signal Radio emphasizes 3 survival priorities for anyone in areas affected by military communication breakdown. Observe before acting. Watch patterns of movement, behavior, and timing. Communicate with trusted neighbors using radios, runners, or visual signals. Plan and execute cautiously. Assume that structured authority may be inconsistent, delayed, or absent. These principles are now more reliable than expecting orders, checkpoints, or official guidance to maintain security.
And emotionally, it is heavy. The collapse of structured authority heightens fear, uncertainty, and social tension, but it is also creating opportunities for human ingenuity and collaboration. Listeners describe neighborhoods self-organizing, relaying critical updates via radio chains, marking safe and unsafe areas visually, and improvising communal protection. Observation, improvisation, and local trust are replacing centralized authority. This is survival by human network rather than infrastructure.
For those listening tonight, remain vigilant, maintain observation, coordinate locally, and do not rely on orders from higher-ups alone. Evaluate risks yourself. Trust neighbors you can confirm. Keep radios operational, map your surroundings, and anticipate sudden changes. Authority may be fractured, but survival is still possible through situational awareness and human coordination.
Lost Signal Radio will continue broadcasting as long as possible, relaying updates, sharing observations, and supporting local networks. Military communications may fail, patrols may be inconsistent, and authority may fracture, but the human signal persists. Keep observing, keep communicating, and keep surviving.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. The night is uncertain. Authority is fractured. Communications are failing. But as long as you are listening, observing, and coordinating with those around you, the signal continues. Humanity persists even when command structures collapse. Listeners, this is Lost Signal Radio, and I'm Alex Mercer. Tonight, the disruption we've been tracking locally and regionally has escalated to something more profound. Long-distance travel is now virtually impossible. Highways are gridlocked, rail lines are closed, and those attempting to flee urban centers are finding their plans thwarted. One listener in New York City reported seeing cars lined bumper to bumper on the FDR Drive, idling for hours, unable to reach the exits. Trains in Philadelphia stopped mid-journey, passengers forced to disembark in the dark, some walking miles through shadowed streets to reach safety. Airports, as we've reported before, remain chaotic or shut down entirely. Movement, once a given, has become a challenge requiring careful observation, local knowledge, and immense endurance.
And Alex, the human response is immediate and intense. People who had planned to leave cities for safer zones or rural relatives are turning back, exhausted and frustrated. One listener from Chicago described a group of families walking along darkened highways, relying only on flashlights and improvised maps, trying to navigate around roadblocks and stalled vehicles. Another from Boston said that commuters attempting to board trains found them stranded, with no power, no updates, and no way to know if their journey would resume. Fear, fatigue, and frustration are mixing with determination. People are improvising, taking roads less traveled, and sometimes moving entirely on foot. But the scale of disruption makes every mile unpredictable, every route a risk.
This underscores the fragility of our transportation systems. Rail, road, and air networks rely heavily on power, communication, and coordination. Once any one layer fails, satellites, signals, traffic control, dispatch systems, the entire system collapses, often silently. What was once predictable, scheduled, and reliable has become chaotic, inconsistent, and dangerous. Tonight, survival depends on knowing your environment, establishing safe routes in advance, traveling with companions, and maintaining visibility of landmarks rather than depending on electronic navigation.
And as if local disruptions weren't enough, the effects are now reaching a global scale. International satellites indicate that Europe and Asia are experiencing minor disruptions as the same solar flare sweeps across the planet. Observatories in London, Berlin, and Tokyo are reporting anomalies in communications, electricity, and GPS data. Commercial flights in multiple continents are reporting navigation issues. Even distant nations, far removed from the eastern seaboard chaos, are beginning to experience ripple effects of the same geomagnetic storm that has disrupted North America. Civilization, as we know it, is revealing its fragility not just locally, but globally.
For listeners, this has profound implications. Systems we assume are independent, electricity, communication, travel, supply chains, are connected in ways we often overlook. When a solar flare disrupts satellites, GPS, and power grids here, the effects ripple through interconnected systems worldwide. Supply chains may stall, digital communication may degrade, and navigation may fail. The world is smaller than we realized, and tonight, its interconnectedness is being tested in real time.
And the psychological effect of that realization is striking. Listeners report feelings of isolation and vulnerability, recognizing that the crisis isn't contained to their neighborhood or city, but resonates across continents. One family in Miami wrote that they are watching news feeds of minor satellite disruptions in Europe and thinking, if this can happen here, what else is connected? What else can fail? It is a humbling, terrifying awareness. The systems that underpin daily life are simultaneously local, national, and global, and all are fragile.
For survival tonight, the guidance is multi-layered. Locally, focus on observation, coordination, and self-reliance. Travel only if necessary, and prioritize visibility, resource planning, and companion travel. Globally, recognize that even supplies or assistance from outside your immediate region may be delayed or disrupted. Maintain reserves, communicate with local networks, and plan for contingencies. Do not assume that systems outside your city or country can be counted on to provide safety or stability.
Listeners are improvising strategies to adapt. In Washington, D.C., residents are creating micro-local networks to ensure that even if highways remain impassable, critical supplies like food, water, and fuel are redistributed within neighborhoods. In Philadelphia, radio operators are relaying movement alerts to help those stranded navigate safely on foot or via small local routes. Communities are effectively becoming self-contained ecosystems, ensuring survival without relying on broken transportation or disrupted global systems.
Emotionally, this realization of both local chaos and global ripple carries weight. People are confronting the fragility of everything they rely on: power, communication, travel, supply chains. Yet, they are also discovering resilience in community, observation, and ingenuity. Human networks are now as critical as any technological system. Radios, neighbor coordination, improvised local authority, and shared vigilance are emerging as the primary tools of survival.
And for anyone listening tonight, it is worth noting adaptation is not optional. When long-distance travel fails, supply chains falter, and global systems respond imperfectly, your safety depends on observation, communication, and community coordination. Establish local resource networks, monitor streets and routes, and rely on human verification over digital guidance. Survival is now tangible, local, and human, while technology is unreliable.
Lost Signal Radio will continue broadcasting for as long as the signal holds, providing updates, listener reports, and survival guidance. Long-distance travel may be impossible. Global ripple effects are underway, and infrastructure worldwide is fragile. But your observation, coordination, and adaptation are still in your control. Humanity persists when systems fail.
Stay alert, stay connected to your neighbors, observe and verify before acting, plan for local survival. And remember, while the world may feel smaller and more fragile than ever, the human capacity to adapt, improvise, and survive remains the strongest signal of all.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. Travel may be impossible. Global systems may falter. Communications may fail. But the signal persists, as long as you are watching, listening, and acting deliberately. Humanity endures through observation, coordination, and resilience. Listeners, this is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane on Lost Signal Radio. As the night stretches on, we've witnessed a world in disarray. Blackouts swallowing cities, air traffic circling endlessly, satellites failing, communication networks fractured, grocery shelves empty, streets gridlocked, and even military commands in confusion. We've seen the auroras paint the sky in colors that were once unimaginable, while neighbors and communities improvise to survive in a world that feels smaller, darker, and more fragile than ever. Tonight, the chaos has reminded us of a fundamental truth. The systems we rely on are delicate, and authority, even when it appears absolute, can falter.
And yet, Alex, even in the silence of powerless streets, in the emptiness of grocery shelves, and in the uncertainty of conflicting alerts, humanity persists. Neighbors are communicating via radios and hand signals, forming networks of trust where official guidance has failed. Communities are observing, adapting, and improvising. The tools of survival tonight are simple: awareness, coordination, patience, and cooperation. Your eyes, your instincts, and your community are the strongest systems still operating.
Lost Signal Radio will remain on the air as long as we can. But tonight, the signal is not just what comes from this microphone. It is what comes from you, from your observation, your ingenuity, and your connection to those around you. Stay alert. Conserve resources. Communicate where you can. Move deliberately. Protect yourself and your neighbors. In a world of uncertainty, that vigilance is your anchor.
Remember, listeners, chaos does not end the human spirit. It tests it, it challenges it, and it proves time and time again that survival depends not on infrastructure or authority, but on observation, improvisation, and the networks of trust we build around us. The night is long, the systems may falter, but humanity endures.
This is Alex Mercer with Sierra Lane, signing off from Lost Signal Radio. Keep watching, keep listening, keep communicating, and above all, keep surviving. The signal may be fragile, but as long as we remain vigilant, it will endure.